Welcome to Surrender School.
All right, I want to start with the mission statement of Surrender School. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions to those who want a healthy relationship with food. Surrender School began and stays something to support people that have eating disorders or problems with food. But we have all kinds of other people that come here and find recovery. But since those that founded it started it with food, and there's no other programs really out there that are geared toward people with food addictions, or food misbehaviors, I guess. So anyway, that's how Surrender School began and how we keep going on. All right, we are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do adhere to the spirit of the traditions because all of us do come from a 12-step background, and we absolutely believe in the 12 steps. Everything that we offer, there's old stuff that's out there, meaning recorded in the last couple of years. There's new stuff coming down the pike. The way you find that out is you go out to the website. We really want to drive everybody to the website because the website has all the information that you want. So one thing to do is watch in the chat, because in the chat, Lori posts a bunch of stuff. So just every once in a while, take a look at the chat. I completely ignore the chat. So if you send something to me, I'm not going to see it. So because I willfully ignore the chat. But I don't mind if someone says, hey, Cheryl, that doesn't bother me. Well, unless you do it right in the middle of what I'm talking about. Okay. And then you'll never know it bothered me, I guess. Well, you probably will because my face will show it, and then a giant on your screen unless you have gone to gallery, which I hope you do. Okay, anyway, at the bottom of the screen, you see if Surrender School has helped your recovery, we ask that you donate. None of us that we don't get any money or anything for what we're doing. It's all volunteer. But there are expenses like the website, like the Zoom. And we're doing a retreat sometime in 2026. And so here in Las Vegas, which is where I'm from. And so there obviously will be expenses for that as well. So if we have helped with your recovery, please consider donating. The nice part is we work with 12-step people who are accustomed to donating. So that's an awesome thing. So let's go ahead and take a moment to make sure that you're 100% present. So take a moment to feel your breath going in and out of your body. Feel your feet on the floor, or if you're sitting down, your butt in the chair. Just be present. Forget about everything from earlier today and yesterday, and forget about everything that's coming down the pike. Just be present for this. And now together, let's say the Surrender School set-aside prayer. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. All right, I'm going to be covering some of the things that I usually cover. And I'm going to say, first of all, that this is a review. And obviously many of the people here I know, so that means that you've been here before. But I want to talk for a second just about what we're doing here. This is a review, and the audience for this review, the main audience is somebody who's brand new to Surrender School and wants to catch up. The second is somebody who was doing the work but somehow fell behind and wants to catch up. And the third are people that have been there and done all the work for 6 months, and you just want to see, am I on track, or you're just a friend of mine and you're supporting me. That's the fourth group. So anyway, but the idea here as I go through this, just keep in mind, I'm going to be covering it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know us yet. So if you are somebody who does know us, I think that you'll go, yep, that's them. So us meaning the people who basically are organized around Surrender School. And if you've been here for 6 months, that's probably you too. Okay, the goal of this course is a personal journey. And our focus is to help you understand the relationship between your false self, or that ego self, right? That ego that basically jumps up to defend you, and your true self. So to basically know the difference between those two things, and to treat yourself with unrelenting compassion because you are human. So what makes Surrender School completely different than anything else that's going on is that we believe in absolutely treating yourself with unrelenting compassion because you are human. It is the core of everything that Surrender School does. To understand, I mean, everything from the science of step 1 to the 30 meetings in 30 days relapse thing that Linda did, to the stuff we're doing here, to the stuff that Amber does, all of it is about how do you love yourself into recovery as opposed to condemning yourself and hating yourself into recovery. It's a completely different perspective on the 12 steps, but we love the 12 steps. Some things to keep in mind as we go through this. I'm going to focus very much on the steps and not the Enneagram, because what I'm finding, and I didn't expect to find this, it was a surprise to me, the work that Joy and Linda and Cynthia and those guys did in putting this together really does, because it's about specific types, because this is called working the steps by type. The vast majority of the Enneagram training is done online. It's done out on Surrender School. You read about your type, right, out on Surrender School. And so I refer to that, but I don't spend a whole bunch of time teaching it, which, by the way, is what allows me in here to be able to do a review in an hour and a half, because I could never do that if I was also teaching Enneagram stuff. So the Enneagram stuff is actually so integral to everything that we're doing with each of the steps. So it's a real blessing. If you work this stuff, you will be supercharged. Okay. So since we are working the steps by type, you must take a test. It doesn't make any sense at all for you to try to work the steps by type if you don't know your type. It just doesn't make any sense. So take the test. That's why it's great big in red. We do believe that self-contempt stalls or stops spiritual growth. That is one of the premises of Surrender School, and that is if you hate yourself, it's almost impossible to grow spiritually. So the idea, which is hence the reason that we have this idea that we are human beings that make mistakes, and we can love ourselves through those. As a matter of fact, it's key that we do that. All right. We do believe that if you do the work, you will be supercharged. It's really funny when I meet with people who have been working through this. We're all surprised at the growth that's happening. I mean, and it's really funny because many of us have been in 12 steps for years and years, and I'm working through it as we do this as well. And every week I'm like, oh, wow, I see more and more. All right. Remember, be kind. You have a lot of choices in the world. You can choose to be a lot of things. We ask that you be kind to yourself and other people as well. Your first assignment is to be sure that you know your type. So take the test. I'm going to go into, if we have time at the very end, I'm going to go into the website and show you how to get everywhere you need to get in order to do all these things. There will be, the second from the last slide is a list of the assignments that I think you need to do to catch up. So once again, for the people that are here to catch up, either to catch up or just starting and they want to catch up, I'm going to go through all the assignments. So I'll go through and talk a little bit about it generally, but then I'm going to have a list of the assignments and about how long it takes. It's about 2 hours worth of work for you to completely catch up. I do want to say that this is just logical, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you do that work, you will be ready for step 7, but you will not have grown as much as the people who have been here for 6 months. I mean, that is the way life works, right? So, but don't worry about it, because you're going to end up going through, you'll end up caught up enough that you can go into 7. So no worries about that. All right. Real quick, for those who don't know me, I'm going to tell my story a little bit. I've been in program about 22 years. The 12-step program that I have been part of is Overeaters Anonymous. I recently, within the last 5 years or so, learned about the Enneagram, and what the Enneagram did for me the entire time that I was in the 12-step program before I learned about the Enneagram. There's something in me that believed that I could hate myself into recovery, that if I hated myself enough, if I treated myself badly enough, I would recover. What I've learned with the Enneagram is my bad behavior, all of it is tied to my Enneagram type, and I'm wired that way. It doesn't mean it's like I can continue to behave badly. I don't mean that, but it does mean that I go, oh, I see why I act like that and no one else does. I get that. And it really allowed me to just realize that I'm human and I'm wired that way. And that's a beautiful place to begin growing. So that is what happened. I am an Enneagram 8, which is called the Challenger. My background is that I'm a software. I was in software, and I was a training leader in a software company. And what I found through my years of training, by the way, I tell a lot of stories, and I worked for 50 years, and about every 4 years I changed jobs. So all these jobs I talk about, I'm sure people go, what? She was an English teacher, and she was a deputy sheriff, and I was all that stuff, because every 4 years I changed jobs. So yeah, I was all that stuff. Anyway, it does make me seem a little crazy. I think that's my 7 wing at work is all I can figure. But anyway, my best skill I learned is that I can take complex concepts and turn them into tactical, practical actions. Like, you want this, do this, right? That's one of the things that I do. If you don't have a picture of me. This is what I look like. That's my hair when it's curly, and today it wouldn't curl, so I straightened it. But anyway, so that is me to in this day and age. Notice in the last year how much my hair has grown. It's really growing. Those vitamins must be working. Okay. All right. I'm going to start with my view of the Enneagram. And since we're working in the steps by Enneagram type, I think you need to understand at least a little bit about the Enneagram before we get started. And once again, if you've been through this, you've seen this many times, so it's all good. This is my simple understanding of the Enneagram. All right, so this little baby and all little babies are born a certain type. You were born a type, right? So when the baby is, 4 days old and pees its pants, and I guess it doesn't wear pants, pees its diaper, and mom doesn't come within 2 minutes and take care of it, the reaction that baby has, doesn't have language yet, but the reaction the baby has is tied to their type, right? So the 1 would be, oh, this is just perfect, right? And the 8 would be, well, looks like this is something I'm going to have to take care of myself. The 7 might go, oh, this feels kind of good, right? I mean, all the different types will address everything that happens to you, you address differently. What happens as a result of that is you have, all of us do, an ego, a part of you that is the ego structure. And the reaction of that baby, that ego structure begins to build a wall to protect us. And that basically, that ego structure is built to protect us. And as children, we needed it. We absolutely needed it. We couldn't even survive a playground without it, right? So, but that ego structure is there. Our problem isn't that we have an ego structure, because everybody does, and it's a good thing. The problem is that we believe that ego structure is us. I always believed that my deal, by the way, almost every amends that I owed in my 12-step program, almost every amends I owed was for getting into somebody's face, aggressively getting in their face, right? So, and I believe that was me. It wasn't. It was my ego structure defending me without my permission. It jumped up, defended me without my permission. And then I'm, days afterward going, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, right? Okay, so if I believe that I am my personality, then we have a problem, because it's almost impossible to change that. So what we really need to do is, if you imagine that wall is there, and it's like an egg, right? An egg that has surrounded you and it is protecting you like the shell of an egg. If we can crack that shell, we can begin to grow. And that's really what the 12th step does, is crack the shell. So our first time or two through the steps, I'm really kind of out there in the belief that somebody who comes first to the Enneagram and has never been through the 12 steps, I don't know. That's not my experience, so I don't know. I do know when I came to the 12 steps, and I believe that this was absolutely necessary for me. I don't know if it is for anybody else. I had to have my balls broken. I mean, I had to come on my knees. My life was a fucking wreck. I was extremely angry all the time. My life was extremely unhappy. It was bad. And it was the only thing that would have driven me to the 12 steps. And so the first time through the steps, it busted my balls. I had to see so much that I did not want to see. Can you do that without the 12 steps? Maybe. I mean, I'm sure there are people that do. I couldn't. So, okay. But the first time through the 12 steps, right, where there's some suffering that's happening usually, right? We're learning about ourselves in ways that we didn't know. Now, what's interesting is that Bill W., who wrote the Alcoholics Anonymous, what we call the Big Book, he believed that I can't remember this. There's a story in the Big Book somewhere that talks about this guy's pants are on fire. I kept thinking it was hair, but it's pants. His pants were on fire, right? And he kept saying, why is this happening? And they're like, it doesn't matter what's happening. Jump in the river, right? Jump in the river and put it out. And that's the first time through the steps. That's what you're really trying to do, is get it. When Bill W. started Alcoholics Anonymous, he was working with gutter drunks. These are people that had lost everything and literally were laying in the gutter drunk. And he would, or they were in a rehab facility with the DTs. And we would go in and basically say, would you like to turn your life around? Let's figure out how to do that. That is the birth of Alcoholics Anonymous. So one of the things that's happened in the last however many years, 80 plus years, is we realize now, and Bill W. even realized this later in his life, not too much later, like 20 years, 15 years later. And that is that once the fire is out, what do you do with that? And if we believe, and we do, that self-contempt stalls your spiritual growth, what do you do? Okay, you stop drinking. Okay, you stop compulsive eating. Okay, so what do you do now? You just keep doing that same thing over and over. And you do kind of do that. But if you don't do it with a new perspective, then you end up being a dry drunk, or you end up being somebody who white knuckles their food. And that's not the way you want to live either, right? Then you're just basically you are as obsessive on that as you were on drinking or eating before. Now you're obsessed on not drinking or eating, and there's a full life out there that you're missing. And that comes into the Enneagram. And the reason that we work the steps by Enneagram type is because what is driving you to do those things is different by type. We do believe that, and we're learning that more and more all the time. As we go through this, one of the things that you'll find out on the website are a lot of questions. We ask a lot of questions, and it's not like the 99,000 questions that they do in that purple book. It's not like that. This is very specific by your type. Here's a question that I want you to answer. And inquiry, this is A.H. Almas, who's an Enneagram guru. And he says, inquiry is a process of delving into the secrets of existence. Ego incrustations begin to break up when we start to see images as images, structures as structures, patterns as patterns, and projections as projections. All these are created and held together by our beliefs that they are reality. The more you see them as they truly are, the less you believe in them, and the more they start to break up and dissolve. So our goal through all of this is to see our patterns as patterns, and the stories that we tell ourselves. If we can see those as stories that we tell ourselves, that is when they can begin to dissipate. So this is absolutely, I show this slide every week because this is the crux of what we're doing in this course. Okay, for those who are new, one of the things that I did, my background is education, so I can't help it, educate. So because our brain works in icons, I picked an icon, and these are revised icons from the first time when we did Triple E 12 in 2024. We did a 12-week course called the Triple E 12 Step, and it was the kind of the precursor to this. Anyway, I started with these little icon guys, right? So like the merciful teacher is this little beaver, that's type 1, and so forth. This works really well because everywhere that you see this, you'll see that little icon. So you know if you're on a page, if you are a 1 and you're on a page with the little otters, you're on the wrong page. It makes it super easy to see that. So the 1 is the merciful teacher. And by the way, there are typical titles for each of the types that are the ego structure title. Like the type 1 is called the perfectionist. Well, do we want to be perfectionists? No, probably not. But Michael Naylor's title for these is the merciful teacher, which is the true self version of the type 1. And it's like on a continuum, kind of. You start out believing that you are the ego structure, and you're building and learning and growing, and eventually you end up that you identify as your true self, which for the type 1 is the merciful teacher. So the type 1 is merciful teacher. The type 2 is an intuitive healer. The type 3 is an inspiring champion. The type 4 is the creative alchemist. The type 5 is the kind wizard. The type 6 is the courageous pathfinder. The type 7 is the joyful visionary. The type 8 is the lion-hearted protector. The type 9 is the gentle mystic. Okay, the reason that I'm showing this slide is so that you, whatever your type is, you've taken the test, you know your type, you're going to be looking for this icon everywhere of you, for you. Okay, and the icon is tied to the kind of the qualities of the type, if you will. So one of the things I want to talk about, if you are someone who has been through the 12 steps, I'm going to tell you, Surrender School will feel like a pirate ship filled with pirates named Joy and Linda and Cynthia and Cheryl. It'll feel like a pirate ship. So, which, and it's supposed to feel like a pirate ship, actually. The reason I'm saying that, we happen to be a pirate ship who loves the big book, right? We're pirates on a pirate ship who love the big book. So I'm not going to say that everybody believes this, but I will start with what I believe. So one of the things that I believe is that Bill W., I believe, was guided by his greater power to create something that is just miraculous. I absolutely believe that. I believe through the last 80 plus years, it's been bastardized by people into this set of rules that you must do in order to do blah, blah, blah. This is what makes us pirates, because I believe it's been bastardized. So this is, I believe if Bill W. was alive today and knew everything that we know today, we know all the science of hormones, we know, there's so much that we know. We know the way the brain works, we know through all this research that's been done, we know all of these things. And as a result, what we have done is we've said, okay, if we now believe, and we're not gutter drunks, right? And we now believe that we can love ourselves into recovery instead of feeling contemptuous. I don't think Bill W. believed they should feel contemptuous either, but that's the way it's been bastardized. So are we bastardizing the big book and the 12 step? Well, hell yeah, we are, but we're pirates. We're supposed to bastardize things, right? So it's all good anyway. So I just want to say this is going to seem, if you are like a strict 12-step person, you're probably going to go, I'm out of here. And that's okay too. It's fine. Just realize we're pirates. That's the reason that we do. We're like the old-fashioned pirates. If I had a bustier, I'd wear it. Or one of those puffy sleeved shirts, I'd be wearing it right now, but I don't have either one of those. So, all right. All right. Let me get rid of this thing here. Okay. All right. So nearly 100 years later, the adventure continues, and it continues here at Surrender School. And once again, like I said, if you are a traditionalist on the 12 steps, some of this will probably seem a little weird to you. But you can either stick with me if you want to, because there's a lot of recovery going on here. Okay, so let's take a look at the steps. So we're going to start with step one. And step one in the 12 steps is admitted we were powerless over food, in our case, that our lives had become unmanageable. There's a couple things I want to talk about. A couple of the things that we have changed, some of the wording I've changed, and the reason that I've changed the wording is because it resonated with me so much more. And also because in 1939, some of the words had a slightly different meaning than they have today. It's not like we're changing the big book, but I'm changing my interpretation of the big book. I'll say it that way. Okay, so the first change that I make in my own program is I use the word acknowledged instead of admitted. Admitted has a connotation, a feeling of I've done something wrong. No, I haven't done anything. I mean, I've done wrong in my life. I'm not saying that, but basically, no, it's not that. It's that I acknowledge that I am powerless over. And in my case, I say that I'm powerless over reality. If you are powerless over food or powerless over, it's fine. You pick your poison, whatever that is. But acknowledge that you are powerless over that. And then the other thing I want to say is a lot of people say and that our lives have become unmanageable. There's a dash there, not an and. And basically, what the dash means is the second clause is the reason for the first clause. That's what the dash means. That our lives have become unmanageable. So rather than acknowledge I'm powerless and that's why my life became unmanageable. Oh, no, 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 no. I acknowledge that I am powerless and because my life had become unmanageable, right? So it's like the dash allows you to flip that. So what really is happening is I'm going to talk about that for a second. A lot of people in program will say that step one is all about surrender. I think that's absolutely untrue. And it's probably because I'm an 8 and my especially youthful saying was never surrender. So I looked it up and surrender means to yield something to someone. So I go, what am I yielding and who am I yielding it to? For an 8, absolutely for a type 6. And for pretty much everybody else, I got to know what I'm yielding to and who I'm yielding it to. What? Just I surrender. No. What is this and who am I yielding to? So I don't think step one is about surrender. Here is what I think step one is, plain and simple. Step one is my life is a mess. I cannot fix it. I have tried, and my life is a mess. It's not working. I've tried to fix my life. I can't do it. It's a mess. That's step one. I don't consider that surrender because surrender is to yield something to someone. What am I yielding? Whatever. I think later in the steps, we absolutely do. I use this slide because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and there's a sunrise that happens, and the king says, "The sun rises," right? And then they start the battle. Anyway, that's what this reminded me of. So I'm going to do a spoiler alert right now. Ready? Spoiler alert. All right. This is what you are yielding. At some point in your recovery, you yield your fear to a greater power. You will give your fear to a greater power, which then allows you to grow. It allows you to change, right? We're just beginning step 7 here in this month of July. And that is when you're actually surrendering because you're saying, I have tried to do this. I can't. Here is the specific thing that I would love to have changed in my life. It would make such a difference. Greater power, please help me get rid of this. Please help me dissipate this. That is where the surrender comes, in my opinion. And once again, this is one of those, Bill W. never said that surrender was in step 1, right? That's everybody else that summarizes it says that. So we're pirates. Okay, when I give you an assignment for step 1, the step 1 question that I'm going to have you answer one question for each of the first 3 steps. That step 1 question deals with fear. It deals with your fear, which is what we're talking about. We're going to be yielding your fear. So we begin by dealing with your fear just a little bit. All right, so let's take a look at step 2. All right, for step 2, step 2 is we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So there's a couple of things I really want to focus on the came to believe, because came to believe means that has a time frame in it. It's not like bam, I believe. It's like I came to believe over time. As I'm working my program, I come to believe. So I looked that up, and it says the process of being persuaded to trust in something based on cues while being guided to a specific viewpoint. This is where I'm going to add a different definition, because in my opinion, it is a different definition. It is a process of being persuaded to trust, and trust means a confident expectation. So I confidently expect something from this, right? So I confidently expect, right? So I have this confident expectation in something based on cues, which is for me, learning and experience, while being guided by trusted people to my own viewpoint. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to give you the new definition, I think. Came to believe is the process of being persuaded to trust in something based on my own experience while being guided to my own unique, by trusted people, to my own unique viewpoint. This, I believe in step 2, that we are being guided to our own unique view of a greater power, unrelated to what anyone else has. My belief is that not only do I have a unique view of my greater power, I'm supposed to have a unique view because of all of my experiences in life, because of my type, because of what I need in a higher power, because of all of this. So the came to believe part just says, over time, you will come to believe in a power that is greater, anything you could have imagined. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. What I want to talk about is I absolutely believe that your higher power, which one will call higher power, that your view of that higher power, it's like, and I think, Dave, you were the one that introduced this during one of the office hours. It's like God is the ocean and we are a wave in the ocean. So we are part of this whole thing that is called, the universe, right? The spirit of the universe. We're part of that, but we are not the ocean. So imagine if I am a wave in the ocean, there are all kinds of things that are more powerful than that one little wave. And that is what I'm trying to invoke as we go along. So if my view can be, I picture that it's a diamond. If you've ever looked at a diamond, when you move it even just slightly, different facets will come up. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do is, as you're working through the step 2, there's just one question you're going to answer. As you're working through that, can you view it like that God is like that diamond that you're looking at different facets of? That means that you do get to ask the question, is my higher power or my greater power big enough to be able to help me with these things, powerful enough, trustworthy enough, loving enough? If not, that's what we need to work on in step 2. How do I make sure that my view of a greater power is big enough, strong enough, trustworthy enough, and loving enough that it allows me to love myself through whatever it is that I need to go through? If it is not, reorient yourself. Move that diamond around so that your view of that greater power is greater than anything you could possibly imagine. I wasn't raised in any way religious, so it was super easy, I guess, for me to set aside any preconceived notions of what God is or what my greater power is. By the way, I use greater power. Higher is a hierarchy kind of thing, and this is like in the wave in the ocean. There's no hierarchy here, right? That greater means, whoa, it's greater, so much greater than the power that I have. Because in step 7, we are going to be invoking the power of the spirit of the universe to help us with things that we cannot do ourselves, which is amazing to be able to do that. Everybody has heard for the last like 8 months, it feels like 8 months, in the last 8 weeks, how excited I am about step 6 and 7. So anyway, I'm very excited about step 7. Okay, your step 2 question, I'm going to have you answer one, and it deals with trust. Okay, so just so that you know, with fear for step 1, with trust for step 2. All right, let's look at step 3. Step 3 is pretty easy. It says, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Once again, that's that changing of the facets. People will come and say, okay, I've made a decision. I'm ready to turn what do I do now? Recovery is a decision followed by action, and the action is working steps 4 through 9. It's pretty simple, right? Step 3 says, okay, I made a decision. I am ready to turn my will and my life over to the care of this greater power, as I understand the greater power. And then you work step 4 through 9. Pretty simple. All right, so I believe that there are things. I know that this is a lot of information. I should apologize for all the information, but you can go back and look in this if you need to. But I'm hoping that it's not too much information. Okay, the basic fear of each of the types. So the type is off on the left there. The basic fear of each of the types, I think, drives a lot of your defenses. And we'll talk about that, what I mean by defenses in a couple minutes. But the reason that I care about this is because whatever type you are, this is probably drives more than you can possibly imagine in your life. So for one, they have a fear of being defective. For the type two, they have a fear of being unloved or unwanted, in some cases unlovable. For the three, they have a fear that they have no value apart from their achievements. For the four, they fear that they have no personal significance. For the five, they have a fear of being helpless. For the six, they have a fear of being unable to survive on their own. So they are always looking for support. The seven has a fear of being trapped in pain or deprived. The eight has a fear of being controlled by someone who will harm them. And the nine has a fear of being destroyed or a fear that there is nothingness. Okay, the good news is, here's the good news. The good news is that you also, as that type, have some really, really cool things. The true self has some really cool qualities that you end up with when you are in your true self. For the type one, they have self-compassion. For the type two, always kind and loving. I mean, they just are that. Their true self is kind and loving. For the three, they have an unshakable foundation for life. This is interesting because my sister is a three, and a year ago, her husband passed away. And I was so worried about her. I'm telling you, I watch her every day. She has this unshakable foundation for life. I mean, I can see it in her every single day. It's amazing. For the four, they feel very strongly like they are a part of something, and they are happiest when they realize they are a part of something bigger. For the five, they are really good at easy does it. The true self, very good at easy does it. For the six, they are able to walk through fear. It isn't that they don't have fear, but they're able to walk through fear. That's why they're the courageous pathfinder. For the seven, they can stay persistent in the midst of the mundane. The ego self does not allow for that. The true self allows for them to stay persistent in the midst of mundane things. For the eight, they are strong and courageous without trying to be. And for the nine, they can stay present in their body regardless of the circumstances. So there's really good things when you are living in your true self. There's really good things that you get. Okay, your step three question that I'm going to have you answer brings your type's passion and fear and all of those things into that fear and trust equation. So that's how you're going to work. That's why you can work 1, 2, and 3 very quickly. So now let's take a look at step 4. The goal of step 4, very simply, is to uncover our defenses. And I want to talk for a second about why I call it defenses instead of defects. So in the big book, Bill W. does talk about the defects of character. And one of the things that happened with me that I kept getting hung up on is because the second I viewed that I had defects, then I viewed myself as less than, and I would beat myself up. And that's how, for all those years, I believed I needed to hate myself to recovery. Once I went to Friendly Circle Berlin and they talked about defenses, I thought, wait a minute, that ego structure defends me. These are defenses that my ego structure has come up with to protect me, and I don't need the protection anymore. So once they were called defenses, I was able to not view myself as a horrible person because I had these defenses. It was natural that I had these defenses. It was human that I had these defenses. So of course I have defenses. What I want to do is see those defenses so that I can ask my greater power to remove them. So the goal of steps 4 and 5 are not to tell the horrendous story of your life in 150 pages. That is not the goal of step 4. And the goal of step 5 is not to dump all that shit onto the person that's listening. That is not step 5. It literally is just to uncover our defenses, to uncover it ourselves as much as we can, and then to have a kind observer who observes it and can see the patterns that we cannot see. That's really what the goal of 4 and 5. Those of you that have been through steps 4 and 5, this is what we did. And you guys did an amazing job of doing exactly that, uncovering those defenses. And then in step 5, the kind observers were amazing. All right. Now, the reason that we want to do that is because human beings stand in the rubble of former beliefs. It doesn't mean we continue to necessarily believe them, but we stand in the rubble of them. We will stand there and defend a belief that doesn't even serve us anymore, right? Because we don't realize it's a belief. We don't realize it's a story that we've told ourselves. Okay. So with step 4, one thing I want to say, and this has come up during office hours, but I don't think I've covered it in any of the sessions. My sponsor told me when I was afraid of step 4, she said, step 4 is not about finding out what we are. It's about finding out about what we are not, so we can ask to have it removed in step 7. So step 4 is all about I'm acting this way, but I am not this way. That ego structure jumps up without my permission. That is not me. That is not my true self. My true self for the 8 is kinder, softer, gentler, more loving, instead of in people's face all the time. That is step 4. Now, with that in mind, with this idea that it is that step 4 is about finding out what we are not, the instant we can accept what is not in our nature, rather than being distracted by all we think we could or should be, then all our inner resources are free to transform us into the particular self we are aching to be. And I think that aching to be is what brings people to program, because there's something resilient in us that knows that there is a better way to live than the way that we've been living. That's what brings us to program. All right, so we're going to be going into step 4 here in just a minute. Raise your hand if you'd like to share, not on what's going on in your life. What I want to hear for those that are here to say, do I want to work this? Because there's going to be some work this week to get caught up. Do I want to do that? So what I'd like is for people, raise your hand if you feel like there's been growth in your life because of the time that you've spent here in Surrender School, specifically in this session. Okay, Sheila, to you, and just a couple minutes, just a little bit of sharing. So go ahead, Sheila.
So I'm pretty new. I'm Sheila. I'm about 7, 8 months in ACA, and I'm a busy holic, the workaholic type, but I'm a 7, the endlessly happy type. And so I do feel trapped when negativity starts. Like I like shrink up. But one thing, and of course, being the busy holic, I feel like, why is this program taking so long? I thought I'd be, fixed by now. How long is this going to take? But I did notice on reflection that I used to be very ragey, like kind of inside rage. I didn't scream at people, but even though I'm the happy 7, I'm like super ragey. And so I noticed that went away because I can't even remember how I used to rage. Was it at other people? Was it at me? I had a lot of resentment. I didn't get fixed yet, so I'm still waiting around for that to happen. But I know for sure it changed my anger part of my personality. And thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna say my prejudice is that we aren't broken. My background is software, right? So in software, what happens is you write the software, it goes out to customers, and they come back, right? That's the way it works, right? So they come back and they'll say it's broken. It's like, well, it's not broken. It's working as designed. Maybe it's a shit design. I don't know, but it's working as designed. And so I believe it helps me to not. I don't view myself as broken. I view myself as the reason I brought up broken is because fixed ties to broken. It's broken, it needs to be fixed. Oh no, what you're talking about with the rage thing, that kind of thing is someday that defense is gone and you're like, cool. And I didn't do that. My greater power did that, right? I need to see it, right? And acknowledge it and thank God that happened. But that's exactly the way that it works. I don't think we're ever completely fixed because that's called heaven, not earth. So, but thank you for that, Sheila. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right, Shirley, to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley, and I introduce myself as Slowly but Surely. And I'm not sure exactly what I want to say, but I do want to say that I was like kind of always getting involved in these 12-step groups. And I just felt like I was just spinning my wheels and I wasn't enjoying any continuing recovery. And then I learned about Surrender School. And I think my biggest awareness here so far is I thought I came here with so much self-awareness. And then I realized that I know I'm a people pleaser and I know I'm a doormat, but I've learned a lot here about how exactly it plays out in my life and how these are my defenses that really control me and dictate, all my moves and actions. So I think I'm in kind of the awareness and now I'm very much and suffering with it, the acceptance phase.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it happens. Awareness first, then acceptance of that, and then action. So awesome. Thank you, Shirley. Joy, to you.
I think what I got more than anything was a pause rather than me just acting and trying to people please everyone else. I have a choice now about when to do for others, and basically is when it's in alignment with God. The other thing is twos don't speak up much. I'm learning, I'm practicing speaking up, and it's really tough, but I'm willing to take the chance today, and I wasn't before. So thanks.
Thanks, Joy. Lori, to you.
Well, it's tough. It's hard to put into words, but I'm going to do my best here. I'm a type 9, and I, like Joy described, I don't speak up. I go internal. I don't want to raise any kind of conflict or strife or that. And that what I do is I hold that all internally, and that makes a mess. I worked the steps for and had a good recovery through OA with a sponsor who did it the Big Book way, which I do believe is very much how Cher is doing it here with the little tweaks but it's going back to the source to me and just putting the spin on it of a positive spin and the Enneagram types. And as far as the type, it gave me an understanding of who I am and the way I behave. But it's also what I'm coming to now is learning what it is I want to be. Who's my or not want to be, who I really am. And making that difference between my personality type and my true self. And I don't know if I'm quite getting the words right. Sherry, you can correct me if you need to, but
It's all good.
that's how I interpret it. And this slide you shared just before with the butterfly with the gears, and just to transform us into the particular self we are aching to be.
Thank you. I love that slide. I swear. I mean, it's like every time I'm like, oh, this is my favorite slide ever. And then I find it, this is my favorite slide I've ever made. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lori. All right, Vera, to you.
Very quickly, I think that this has been a game changer for me so far. And it's something you said a while ago, which is, as a 7, I want to be free and I don't like feeling restricted. And then realizing, like I love what Joy said about the pause, realizing that actually I am free, or that I don't want to be dominated. And and then realizing that I am strong, that I don't have to fear that. And I don't know if it's just the Enneagram, because of course I will also go to meetings and I'm working the program with a sponsor and speak to him every day. So, I mean, there are lots of things happening, but I think what happened is that for me, certain things started to sort of unblend, like the Velcro is getting less tight, And so just this amazing ability to just pause and sometimes I don't pause before. But this is really being a game changer. And I had worked the program in other ways, but this is much more specific and much more effective. Yes, higher power for sure, but also just the way it's worked. It's the, I'm drawing conclusions that I would never have gotten here for sure.
Thank you, Vera. Yeah. This, what I'm finding, because I'm working as we go through this too, and I work the steps many times, but this time through, I get to love myself every single minute of it, which is never has happened before. There's moments that I would slip into the self-hatred and then start believing again that I can hate myself to recovery. No, that is not the way it works. And so in this, and a lot of the time I can't explain why. I don't know why this is coming together, that it's helping me like this, but it does. And so I'm like the guy with his pants on fire. I didn't need to know why. I just need to work it. I just need to do it and trust the process because it's working, and which makes me so happy. All right, Jim, to you.
So I came to surrender school through a codependency. I feel very fortunate I discovered surrender school. Not just the Supercharge, which has helped me in a great way. There's also, given the point that I came into surrender school, I was able to read, along with others, the emotional sobriety book, which again helped me a great deal. I still have remnants the dysfunctionality in which was given to me, a gift that you don't want. But now, because of these these steps that we've took over this past few months, I'm better able to manage the emotions. There'd be physical emotions in some way, but also the little critical parent, internal parent that pops into your mind, and because of the steps, I'm better able to manage that critical voice. So for a lot of reasons, I'm very grateful for what I've received, and along may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And I want to say too that one of the things that I keep reminding people that so the 12 steps, I believe, are not intended to be one and done. Certainly, when Bill started this, it was to get these, once again, these people that were their lives were destroyed, to get them to stop drinking so they could build a better life. That's not, we're in a different place than that right now. So I do believe that it's not supposed to be one and done. So what's happening with Surrender School is we're building a community, and we will go through these probably in different formats over and over again. And we're gonna, the matter of fact, when I'm showing 4, 5, and 6, our goal is to come up with one defense that we want to work on so we can see it getting better, and then we move to step 7. That's the reason, other than the fact that we're halfway through the year, that's the reason we stopped here, because up to this point, it's defining that one defense so that we can do that. If you can pick a defense that's, like completely changes your life, great. Or you can pick a defense that's a little one, but it's one that you want to be able to see changing in your life. And then it changes, much like somebody said earlier, it's like it changes softly. Like Sheila said, it changes. It's like suddenly you're like, oh, I'm not raging anymore. That's interesting, right? Because that's you're inviting your greater power to come in and help you with this one. There's one thing. And then next year, I'm envisioning, I could be wrong, I'm envisioning. And then next year, we work on another defense. And then maybe a month from now, we work on another one. And maybe we have some kind of group where we all work on whatever the one that we've all identified, we work on that together. That's the vision of this, that it's this continually moving community, that just our lives just keep getting better and better and better. Not like, whoa, angels singing, because that doesn't, I mean, momentarily will angels sing and butterflies and sunshine and rainbows, yeah, great, but that isn't the way life is, right? Life is lifey. That's what Linda T says. When life gets lifey, how do we deal with that? Well, we practice when it isn't lifey, right? That's what we do. So okay, all right, Emma, to you.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, just really quickly, and actually, Jim, listening to Jim, who's also a 4, it's very similar that I've become much more accepting. I've done program for a number of years, and 12-step program, and I've become much more accepting of myself rather than hating myself. And like you say, oh, that's just my type, that's just the way I am, kind of thing. And so much more accepting of that, and also accepting of other people, because they're whatever type they might be, it's they're behaving to type, kind of thing, and it's not personal, which obviously I'm told by my sponsor in program anyway. It's don't take everything so personally, but this is really, really helping me to do that and bring so much more calm into my life, and serenity, really. And also not to act on feelings, just the feelings. They used to just crush me, and I'd want to drink or smoke or eat. And now I can just kind of like, okay, it's just a feeling and it will pass. And so, yeah, it's just helped enormously. And I love this community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma. Great. Thank you. All right, Kim or Dave?
I think what's been most helpful to me is, when we first started studying the Enneagram, I learned about the type 8. I was like kind of proud of being an 8, like, hey, look how great it is to be an 8. And what I've learned through what we've been doing is every type, there are positive and some negative aspects for every type, and it's really about my ego. So my ego is loving how my ego is. Imagine that. But what I've really become aware of is the other aspects of my personality that are not my ego, or not my, type 8 part of my ego. It's like my the wings, like the 7 and the 9 for an 8. There is a part of me that's really adventurous. I associate that with the 7. There's a part of me that wants to relax and chill out. That's my 9 wing. In the arrows too, there's a part of me that wants to be helpful and generous. That's my type 2 arrow. there's a part of me that wants to study and learn things and dive deep into things. That's my type 5 arrow. So to learn that there are many facets of this, and also Michael Naylor, I think, says this every time that I've heard him, teach us. We all have all of these types within us. It's not just, my type, and of course I'm that way and I can't change. It's like I can change. I can, and I really, in a lot of ways, don't have to change. I just have to be aware of all these aspects, not like you showed with that diamond, the different facets. We all have all those facets within us, but it's also helped me too, kind of similar to what Emma said, that it's helped me understand other people so much better. It's like I used to look at other people and say, why does that person act like that? Are they crazy? Are they stupid? Are they, imagine an 8 thinking like that. But um, but it's really helped me understand they're really, if they're really struggling and they're really lashing out and dug in on, I have to be this way and I don't care if nobody else likes it, I have to be this way. It's like they're stuck in that ego. And it helps me understand because their ego is not like mine unless they're an 8 too. It's just as big of an ego. It's just different from the way mine looks. So it's really helped me to get that, have some compassion. You said self-contempt stunts spiritual growth. Contempt for others also stunts spiritual growth. And that's
Absolutely.
really
Yep.
been more my style, is to have contempt for others than for myself. I think I'm all that in a bag of chips, but to really have compassion for other people and when they're stuck, it really helps me relate to other people better. So that's what's been good for me.
Thank you, Dave. So, Lauren, to you.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Good afternoon. Thanks for putting this all together. Another, summary. I'm sure it took enough work. I briefly wanted to say that I was amazed that, I've earnestly feel like I've tried to work the steps, and where this has helped me the most is on my stumbling blocks, my blind spots that in some ways I had a glimpse of, but they've become glaringly obvious now. So I mean, and the fact that my blind spot would lead me to spin out and be like, well, this must not be my program. I must really be in this one instead, or this one. I mean, I think I've done at least 3 or 4. And I've always wondered, like, what is wrong? Why can't I figure it out if I'm doing the work and I'm showing up and I'm being honest? It's because I have a really well-defined blind spot. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we are going to move on here real quick. The big book says that the purpose of step 4 is to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our creator to discover the obstacles in our path. My background, the software that I talked about, I was part of, it was for people who ran warehouses. So it was supply chain software. I did, I don't know, countless numbers of actual inventories of stuff. And I want to talk just a second about the way inventories are done. There is a count where you don't care about anything about it, just the count. There's 15 of these, there's 27 of these, there's 45 of these, and then the analysis follows that. And our inventory that Bill W. talked about for step 4 works the same way. So the inventory, the real work is in the analysis, not in the actual, the count of what is going on. Columns 1 and 2, if you've seen this is one of the areas that we do this very differently. If you've seen the typical step 4 inventory, a lot of people that I've seen, I don't think Bill W. ever expected anybody to do this, but it seems like at least OA, they do this all the time, where they'll have 20 pages of all these people, and every event that's ever happened in your life where somebody did you wrong is on this list of 150 things at step 4, and then an exhaustive, especially if you do it like online, this exhaustive explanation of every one of these 150 things where somebody done you wrong. And then the poor person who has to listen to that in step 5, that is not how we do this. So basically, column 1 is, in other words, instead of saying my mother because, and then 18 reasons for that, is just, if your mother abused you, mine did not, I had a lovely childhood, but if your mother abused you, you can just say mother and she abused me, okay? So that's basically what has disturbed me or upset me. The fact that your mother abused you is what disturbed you and upset you. The details of that are not what step 4 is about. right? Because that's the count. That's the count. This person, and this is generally why I was upset, this person and so forth. And where the analysis comes in, the point of the analysis is, how did this make me feel? And what was the nature of my response? So something happened, right? The abuse of your mother, let's say. And then what happens is the way it made me feel was less than. It made me feel, angry or sad, or I hid, or whatever it is. And then what's the nature of the response? So your feelings then make you respond, and you respond. So it's that we're looking at. How did it make me feel, and how did I respond to that? And that basically is column 3. All right. And notice it's like 1/3 of it is that first part, columns 1 and 2, and the vast majority, the real work, is in the other columns. Okay, you will not be filling this out. If you're new here, I'm not going to ask you to fill this out. You can if you want to. The example I'm giving, I was at a new casino here. I live in Vegas. I went to a new casino, and this guy got a card so I could play some stuff. And this woman said, she talked really slowly to me and said, would you like me to explain the way the progressives work? Right? Okay, now I say I put down, she talked slowly and tried to explain something that is obvious. What I felt was she made me feel, no, my feelings were, oh my God, she thinks I'm old, or she thinks I'm stupid, or she thinks I'm old and stupid. I'd rather be ignored than talked down to like this. I'm an 8, right? So, right now, the old Cheryl would have been, what the fuck is your problem? I mean, it would have been awful, but it's not. Inside, I was just like, okay, whatever. She said, do you want me to explain? I said, no, I'm good. Right. But I realized, oh, that's still that ego jumping up saying, why is she treating me like this? This is terrible. I deserve more respect than whatever I'm telling myself. Right. What really happened is she just talked slowly and tried to explain something that is obvious to anybody who's ever done whatever. Okay. So here's the thing. I'm saying my part in it. I'll come back to that in a minute. The fact that I resented that woman or felt bad feelings about what was going on there, right, it's a hard thing. I felt that. And how did that make me act? In this particular case, it made me angry, but I didn't act on it, which is yay, Cheryl, right? But then there's this part in the normal step 4 that says, what was my part in it? I think this is way too early to know your part in it. We're not going to know that until step 7. We're not going to know that, right? Probably even 8. I mean, it's going to be a while before we know what it is. It's step 8. I'll try to figure out what is my part in this, because then I got to figure out, do I owe amends, basically. But I don't figure that out now. So I'm not going to have the people that are new, or if you miss this, don't go back and do this. I'm going to have you do this instead. Okay. I'm going to have you do the sample, and all you're going to do is ignore the who, because your who would be different. But just take a look and say, if this happened to me, would it affect me? How would it affect me? How would it make me feel? So in other words, they didn't acknowledge that, they didn't understand or acknowledge my feelings. This is a type 4 sheet. They didn't understand or acknowledge my feelings, and it made me feel unseen and unworthy. And then what did I do? How did I feel? And what was the nature of my response? I hid, I reacted, I went into hiding, I got depressed, whatever happened. And then my part in it, don't pay attention too much to that, because you're not ready for that yet. So what you're going to do is just go out here and say, do any of these apply to me? And circle them if they do. For the ones that haven't done the work, if you want to fill it out, that's great, but that's going to take more time than you have this week, because I really love you to catch up. And you can catch up to some degree by just basically going to the sample, which I'll show you later, going to the sample and basically say, yeah, I felt this way. Yes, I felt this way. And maybe what your reaction, right? What was the nature of your reaction to that? So your step 4 assignment simply looks at repeated patterns that give you bad feelings and or bad reactions. Bad meaning not the way I want to show up in the world. Now let's look at step 5. All right. So what we did with step 5, basically we asked for people to volunteer to be kind observers, where they would listen to the step 4 inventory, that shortened inventory, right? No more than 10. How did I feel, right? And we asked people to volunteer. Our expectation of there'd be maybe 5 or 6 people that volunteered. Almost everyone volunteered. It was absolutely amazing. It was amazing. And I have to say, a surprise to me, a delightful surprise to me, was the most popular. The ones that kept getting asked to do this were the type 6s. It was just absolutely lovely to see. It was Kim and Wendy and Jennifer and Linda T. And it's like so the sixes, because and once again, the way that the sixes show up in the world is as courageous pathfinders, and it's just perfectly non-judgmental is what it feels like. I think that's the reason, because anyway, I love, that was a discovery that I was like, this is the coolest thing. Okay, anyway, sorry about that, was an aside. Okay, so basically what the kind observer did is pay attention, withhold judgment, no judgment whatsoever. They reflected by pausing, right? They clarified, asked a few questions, they summarized, did the math. Did you know, type 8, that you said some form of anger 25 times in 27 minutes? That might be what you want to look at. And then basically share the defenses back with them, right? Kind is of a benevolent nature. Observer is the observe and report, not participate. No advice giving, nothing like that. And it worked out perfectly. To regard with attention so as to see something. So you're helping this person who does the step 4. You're helping them. The kind observer is helping that person see their blind spots, like Lauren was talking about earlier. I asked Michael Naylor, when we are setting this up, should we set it up so that the similar types? And his answer in email was, Cheryl, no type specific advice on observing. Those who have learned to observe themselves with compassion and non-judgment will be able to pass this on to others. It doesn't matter what the type is, but rather the level of self-awareness, of self-observation. Okay, so if you want to be a kind observer for some of these new people, let Lori know that in the chat. Just reach out to her and say, I'm willing to do that. We're going to carve out time during the sharing in the future weeks when people are ready for these new people or catching up people, for them to be able to do that. So those of you that are new or catching up, when you are ready for a kind observer within a few weeks, don't let this drag out, but within a few weeks, then let us know and we will help arrange during the session for a kind observer to work with you. All right, this is what I want to say. Step 5 with the kind observer was extremely impactful, as someone else listened and saw the repeated patterns that we often don't see ourselves. So it was amazing to me that so many people, I knew step 5 was cool, but I had no idea that it would turn out the way that it did. So we're getting so much more out of this than we expected to get. And I had high expectations, but it's even cooler. So the step 5 was just an amazing exercise to watch. All right. So once again, the goal of step 5 is to uncover our defenses. And what, in this case, what we're looking for as we're going through this is to uncover one defense, right? And that takes us to step 6. I'm going to cover the racket sheet. There's something called the racket. This is the other thing I think that was a surprise that it impacted people so much. So I'm going to cover it real quick here. If you have a situation in your life that's a persistent complaint, years ago, my morning always started. I would come up, because my husband stays up late. I would come out. My husband would not have loaded the dishwasher. And I would be pissed. And I would say, why didn't you load the dishwasher? Can you imagine every single morning? That's a persistent complaint. This thing, same thing over and over, right? And basically, these are the kinds of things. My boss never does this. My son never does this. My sister always does this. The DMV always does this. My abstinence never did this. My food plan always does this. OA never did this. Surrender school never. That's a persistent complaint. And then if I always react the same way, that's called a fixed way of being. So there's 2 things that come together in the racket. And that is a fixed way of being, meaning I always react the same way. I always have this complaint and I react the same way. It's a pattern that happens, right? When those come together, that is called a racket. And a racket, by the way, in real life is the front of this store is like a laundromat. Hidden behind that, they're dealing drugs, right? That's a racket, right? So, and what it basically says is if I have this a persistent complaint and a fixed way of being, I react the same. This always happens every Christmas, right? I get into an argument with this person. Every month, blah, blah, blah. Every OA meeting I go to, blah, blah, blah. Every time I talk to this person, blah, blah, blah. That is a persistent complaint and a fixed way of being. So what I had people do, right? And once again, it's not what it seems on the surface. That's why it's called a racket. It's deeper than a habit. It is a fixed way of being. I am reacting to this the exact same way. It's almost always out of fear, by the way, right? We don't even see it. So the racket worksheet, and it's a little more complex than this because it has an explanation. You want to work a racket on one thing. If you can work it on your defense, that would be on something that is tied to your defense, that would be great. But what is my fixed way of being? How do I always react? What is the complaint? What is it that happened? Here's the juice of this. What is the cost? And what is the payoff to my ego? There's always a cost and there's always a payoff to your ego. You don't continue doing things if there's not a payoff. But usually the payoff is to your ego, not to your true self. What's the complaint? How do I always react? What's the fixed way of being? And then what is the cost and what is the benefit to my ego? So the assignment for step 5 helps you to see your patterns as patterns and the stories that you tell yourself as the stories you tell yourself instead of as reality. So now let's look at step 6. We're going to do a reality check. This is the way that this works. The first thing that happens with the story you're telling yourself is you go, oh, this is a story I'm telling myself. That's the first step. The next step is, what is the story I'm telling myself? So now it's not just, oh, this is a story I'm telling myself. Then I can go, what is the story I'm telling myself here? What is that story? And then the final piece is, what is the cost and ego benefit to the story? Why do I continue to do this? I love this slide too. All right. And then the circle of change, which is where we ended when I did this last thing on step 6. This is where we're ready to go. The need to change starts inside of you. That aching that we were talking about earlier, I am aching to be different. When I talk about myself as a younger person before I came to program, and I was so angry all the time. I mean, I woke up angry. There wasn't a moment in my day I wasn't angry. I was angry all the time. And I had the need to change. It's like, no one should live like this. This is a terrible way to live, right? And I think talking about the rage, right? That rage, Emma, I think it wasn't Emma. Anyway, the person that talked about the rage, it's like that rage inside, that raging that happens or can happen anyway. I know it was the 7 that talked, I think it was Sheila talked about that, right? And then that I have this need to change. Okay, that starts inside. The actual change starts on the outside. We start seeing that I'm changing. And the way that you do that is you show your willingness to try the opposite. So step 6 assignment was about, how do I do the opposite to show God and myself that I'm willing in this one area to change? The need starts inside, but the actual change, my part of it at least, is on the outside. And I try the opposite and I fail. I'm like the example I gave, a little toddler, right? They take 2 steps trying to walk, and then we cheer because they took 2 steps. We don't punish them because they could only take 2 steps, right? And that's what we do. We try the opposite, and we try and we fail horribly, and that's okay. We try again, and we just keep trying and trying. So let's take a look at the website and Surrender School, and then your catch-up assignments. Notice it's a catch-up. Couldn't help myself. All right. So this is what the website looks like. You will see this section on that very front page. At the top is always the Surrender School banner, and then there's stuff below it. All right. When you see this, I want you to, first of all, take the test. If you haven't taken it, click on that link and take the test. Then I want you to click on just above that where it says go to the Surrender School page. You click on that and it will take you to the Surrender School page. And once again, on this page at the top is all the Surrender School banner and all that stuff. But now there are different parts to this page, and I want you to notice it. First of all, the type stuff is at the top. Note, if you are a type 1, you would click on type 1 Merciful Teacher. If you're a type 4, you would hit type 4 Creative Alchemist. You click on that. That's a link that takes you to the page for that type. Underneath that, down below, are videos of all the sessions that we've covered so far. If you have the time and or interest, you can watch the video and you'll get the full training that we did, including shares. So the shares are in there as well. I'm on camera the whole time, most of the time, lately anyway, on the shares, because that way people, you don't have to worry about you being on camera, because you're not on camera in the stuff that we put out on YouTube. And then next to that are general resources, anything that is about all the types. So it's something that is like the mantras for each of the types, or the what do we have? The monthly step up challenge has all the different types in it. Any of those general resources are out on this main page. Now I'm going to talk about when you go into step 4 or type 4. So when I'm ready, if you're a type 4, you click on the type 4 and you go into this page. Notice at the top is the icon, right? And you know that you have the little icon there. You know, yep, I'm on the right page. Notice here where it says steps, those that we've done already are highlighted, and it has all of the homework for the steps. And notice it's all the way to type 7, which people just now started step 7. So all of the different steps are here that we have worked on so far. So if you want to start at the beginning and work on all of them, great. I'm going to have you answer one question on each of those is the actual assignment. Below that is a calendar that talks about what do we share in the breakout rooms, and then also what is your homework for the following week. And all of the weeks are there. So I would click on step 1, right? I click on step 1 and it takes me into step 1 for this type. And all you're going to do is read the stuff that's there and then answer the circled question. You read the whole thing and then you just answer number 4. This is just to catch up. So basically the question, the reflection question at the bottom there, right, says, how have I used food to avoid facing my feelings of inadequacy, and how can I begin to surrender those fears? So remember how I said the step 1 is about fears, step 2 is about trust, and so forth. This is the question you want to answer, because all of the questions build up to that question. So if you answer that question, that helps you catch up. Okay, and you're going to do that on all 3 of them. And I'm going to give you the assignment here in a minute. All right, here's the assignment. So first of all, answer only the number 4 type question for steps 1, 2, and 3. Just like you saw that, you're going to do that for step 1, for step 2, for step 3. You're going to read it all and basically answer the question. You're going to watch the session 2 video that's there, just minutes 10 through minute 32. So it's 22 minutes. Then you're going to watch the session 6 video, minutes 22 to 42, 20 minutes. You're going to tweak the sample sheets to create the short step 4 list. And then we're going to find you a kind observer to be able to do that. And then I'm going to have you watch session 26, which is just basically 4 minutes long, and you're going to choose your one defense. So once again, it's less than an hour for you to answer all of those questions, 22 minutes for the one video, 20 minutes for the next vision, less than an hour for the tweaking of the sample. Don't spend more than an hour on that. And 4 minutes. This is about 2 hours worth of work for you to be able to catch up on and catch up with us so that you can start working step 7 with us. Don't forget there's office hours on Monday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific. There's also a Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And we are beginning this book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram. We're beginning this book starting on Tuesday, the 8th of July. All right, I am going to stop sharing. All right, so any comments or questions? I know that went fast. I could pull that back up. Should I pull that assignment sheet back up so that you can take a picture of it? That way you have 3 ways of getting to the assignment. And I'll do the minutes too. Okay, so keep in mind, don't spend more than an hour on that. I really wanted to keep this right at 2 hours because you have a week to really get done with it. And then once again, all you have to do is let us know and we'll find you a kind observer for step 5. A couple of things that I want to say. First of all is I do not know if this is a fruitless effort because the people that have been coming have worked for 6 months on this. So it's entirely possible that, I mean, I'm positive that what you're going to get out of it will not be what the people who have been here 6 months get out of it. But you don't need to get out of it everything that people got for 6 months because you can get out of it whatever you put into it, you will get out of it. So I absolutely believe that with all my heart. So but please don't spend like every minute of your life watching every video. You're going to end up driving yourself crazy. So if you do the assignment that I said, I really do believe my background is education. And I really do believe I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what's the best way to get you to put in a couple of hours and be where you can literally come with us into step 7. So I'm going to ask you to trust that process. That's my background is that I do know what I'm doing and I'm fingers crossed that you will be able to do that. And those of you that are showing up now, it's really hard to come in the middle of a movie. I know that. So we're trying to help as much as we can. If you can come to office hours, please do, because the office hours are very helpful too, I think. Sherry, go ahead.
Oh, just a quick question. I haven't done the steps before. And so my understanding is it would be better if I had done the steps, but I should still be okay.
Yeah, you will
yeah.
be. Well, yes, if you've never done the steps before, my guess is this will be the kindest way you've ever done the steps. So you'll be my
right.
experiment that says, yeah, you don't have to have your balls broken in order to do this. So I'm hoping
Okay.
because that is the thing. The premise of all of this is how do I go through this? How do I work the steps by my type while loving myself? Those
Mhm.
of us that have been through a 12-step program have never done that. I mean, unless you have an amazing sponsor who somehow worked on that. But usually we come on our knees and we basically are miserable for the first. I mean, I can remember I cried the first month at every meeting. I cried because I knew that I needed to change. I desperately wanted to change. I was in that space. And so my experience is everybody has to do that. Everybody has to everybody has to cry for a month, And now I'm going, maybe not. Maybe there is another way. So Sherry, I welcome you with all my heart, and you'll be my experiment then. So
Wonderful. Thank
okay,
you.
so
Thank you.
yeah, keep coming back, please. Joy,
Thank
to
you.
you. You bet.
I wanted to share that the thing if I had to pick one thing that Surrender School enables me to do, I didn't think it was going to be this. I thought that it was going to be the compassion, because that was the goal when I started Surrender School, at least when it turned in 2020 and became sort of what it is today. I thought it was going to be have compassion for ourselves. And I think we've established that. But here's what's happened with Supercharge and Linda's work and the other presenters. What I think it makes possible is change. I never thought that it would do that, right? I just wanted a safe place for everyone to come and feel accepted and loved for who they are. And I've learned how to accept myself, and I've learned how to accept others no matter what. But I didn't think change was possible. And I see it clearly now, especially with Supercharge, because, Cher and I both agree, step 6 and step 7, that's where we see, that's where we learn about our defenses with a kind observer, but to be able to practice the behaviors and to know that that's what it's about, to take steps and actually trust God or higher power to remove our defenses. And most of those are type specific. And we will soon see in step 8 that our behavior almost, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, is from our type specific defenses. And it's so neat to be able to see that and to apologize. Sometimes I didn't know what I was apologizing for because I didn't see them, right? Like I just knew I wasn't always nice to my son and husband, right? But I know now, and not only do I know what it's for, I can make it right, which is part of, spoiler alert, that's what we get to do in 8 and 9. Thanks. Thanks for recovering with us.